that's also the another thing that I try to watch for is like if I see a sex scene, was the director a guy or a girl? That's something that I also like picking up on because then there's sex is different when it's filmed by a man, and it's like you can tell when it's filmed by a man, or it's there's it just doesn't there's parts in it that just doesn't make sense, and it
I
makes me laugh.
know, really true. I do that too. Like, you jump on IMDb and you're like, sometimes even if I'm watching an intimate scene or a love scene, I want to know, is the director involved with one of these actors? And sometimes you go on IMDb, you're like, oh shit,
Mm,
they're married. You go on Google, you're like, oh wow, they're married. Because
yeah,
it's just like in
yeah.
Macbeth, the way Joel Cohen, he's the one who directed it. Yeah, Joel Cohen, who directed the film. It's his first time, I think, doing it without his brother, the Cohen brothers. And I would have known that
Mhm.
he's married to Frances McDormand, like just from how it's the lighting and the camera caresses her, and he takes such great care to make sure she's and that's just why, another reason why I think it's so important to have more representation. I'm so glad you brought up women directing sex scenes, because there's a certain way to light and to use the camera for different face shapes and for different skin tones. And if you are not, because when you have tokenized diversity, sometimes you'll be the only person of color on a set or in a scene. And then there's a lot of responsibility on you because you're worried. Am I being lit correctly? And then when you
Mm.
watch it later, you're like, nope, I wasn't. I was actually right. That was not all in my head. I gaslighted myself. I didn't need anyone to gaslight me. I did it to myself. Everyone else is lit beautifully. You can barely see me and you see every wrinkle I have. I was right about that. But when you have more people around, then you,
Mm.
as a performer, you get to do a better job because you're not so worried. Right, you're not so worried about every single thing. Are they going to be able to do my hair? Will they have the right makeup for me? Will I be lit properly? And you can just stop thinking about that. And when you have people behind the camera, um, I love, like, I can always tell, not always, but you can usually tell when it's a female DP. Um, and those, if it's somebody who's like you or understands or cares a little bit more, or knows where you're coming from, they take that great care to shoot you in that way. Like Zero Dark 30 is such a
Mm.
good example. It's a war movie. It's incredibly violent, very, very violent. It's torture, for Pete's sake. But I think having a female POV on it really matters. So it's not like, take down all men, burn it down to the ground. Maybe it's a little bit that, but the big part of it is just have chicks and have people of color on your team, so that there's someone other than the
Mm.
performer thinking about how to light the scene so that it's fun.